Hi, this is Dave and welcome to the Table, a series of videos where I review and discuss various board and card games, looking at them from a family perspective. Today we're going to be taking a look at Hapsburg Eclipse from Victory Point Games. Now this is a solitaire war game that's in their States of Siege series. In this game you are in control of the Austo-Hungarian Empire, and throughout the game it is your job to keep the Hapsburg monarchy intact. Let's take a look at this game, how it's played, and I'll come back and I'll give you my thoughts. Okay, I have the game board set up here and I want to quickly go over the components that come with the game. And the first thing that we have over here are a bunch of resource markers here that will benefit us during the game. Some of them we can spend action points for here, which will give us positive die roll modifications. But some of the benefits we can get here, we can get some German aid, we can also intercept some radio messages, or we can also get help when General August von Mackensen comes in and takes over. So those will all give us positive effects to this game. Over on this side over here, I have a bunch of various markers here that signify the off-map theater battles that will be taking place here on various fronts. We have Western and Eastern fronts, as well as some naval battles, and we have the Kaiserschlacht too. We also have some markers here that signify important events that will happen during the course of the game that will affect the gameplay, as well as some markers here that will signify various results of some of the battles that will affect our die roll modifications as well. Finally, down here we have the other fronts that have not yet entered the war. We have the Italians, we have the Balkans, and we have the Romanians. They have not yet entered the war. They will be coming later. And then we do have some of these markers here that will show any kind of revolt. If we have some of the loyalists that during the game, if they're not happy with us, they'll turn their back on us, and that will cause a bit of a problem for us. They will decide to revolt. Now, I have this stack of event cards, and they've been separated into morning, midday, and dusk cards, and they will come out at various times during the game. Now, the game board itself, we have it set up right here. We have a national will tracker up at the top here, and we start off set at 0, and over the course of the game, we're going to have the national will be affected by the various battles. The more victories that we have, the more the country is going to be behind this war, and we will be moving in a positive direction. Now, if we have a lot of defeats, or if we have advancing the opposition fronts, if they gain specific control areas, they will cause the national will to decline. And if we get to a point where we have been just defeated so much that their national will, we no longer want to fight, then we will surrender and the game will be over. So that is how the national will is affected, and I will show you that during the gameplay. Again, we talked about the national loyalty. We have some tracks down here for the Czechs, the Croats, and the Hungarians. And then also we have a war status line here that will explain the different phases of the game. We're going to start off here in the mobilization phase, where we're going to be using the mourning cards. Now, at the start of the game here, we have two of the fronts that will be advancing towards Vienna, which we need to defend Vienna. Here we have the Carpathians and we have the Polish, and these two will be working their way towards the Vienna. Now, a couple of things that I want to point out here on the game board, things that will affect the national will, is if you see these various spots, there will be flags on them, and at the end of a turn, if there happens to be a faction that is controlling this particular area here, these will be counted as defeats and will drive the national will down. So we want to make sure that we do not allow these particular different fronts to advance too close, otherwise it's going to have a rapid decline in the Hapsburg Empire, and the game will be over quicker than you would like it to be. So now that I've explained everything here, there's a sequence of play here, and we will be going through these cards and resolving the various effects and trying to fend off all of these different fronts. Here, to win the game, we must be able to survive and successfully resolve every card that is in the game here. So right now we're going to start off with this particular, the Mourning Cards right here, and I will explain to you and show you how a couple of turns work. So the first thing that we're going to do is the headline phase, and what we will do is we will flip over the card, and this will become the active card that will be in a discard pile. Let me show you what the cards look like here. And this particular card here, the first thing that we have is the card number, and we'll have the event here, which is the Battle of Tannenberg. And then we have events and effects that will be resolved from top to bottom. And then at the bottom here, we have some historical text that explains where and what the events are and what is going on in this particular event during the war. Now, each turn here is going to signify a 4-week time period. So every time that we resolve one of these cards, we can figure this is about 1 month's time period, and the game takes place between 1914 and 1918. So now this one here, right at the top, it says there's an effect here. It says conduct the Eastern Theater Battle here, which would be Tannenberg. So we pull out the Tannenberg cube here, and I usually just place it right on the board. Above here, there's usually squares here where we can add additional resources. But to resolve this particular battle, we will be rolling 1 die. Now, in order to successfully win this battle, we need to roll higher than the number that is listed on this particular marker. So for this particular one here, the number is a 2. We need to roll a 3 or greater in order to be victorious. If we roll a 2, it will result in a stalemate, and it would go here. And if we roll a 1, it would be a defeat. The marker would go here. So if we win, it will go there. So let's roll this die and see where we're at. We roll a 2, which will result in a stalemate, which will go to this particular pile right here. So the next thing that we will do here is that we will look at what armies will advance, and if there is an army that they're showing that is advancing that is not yet in the war, we just disregard it. But right now here, this shows the Carpathians and the Polish will each advance 1, so they're marching on towards Vienna. Next thing, if we look in the card here, there would be a possibility of having some loyalty triggered that we would have to check. Right now this says none, otherwise we would be resolving national loyalty checks. And then finally it says actions. We have 2. So we have 2 actions that we can take on this turn. Now we have a number of options that we can do. Number 1, we can launch an offensive to try to drive back these particular advancing fronts here, either the Polish or Carpathians at this time. And if we do, when we roll, we have to roll the same as or greater than their number to push them back. Otherwise, it would be a failed offensive. We can use 2 action points to repair the fortress at Przemyśl, and we want to try to keep this around as long as we can, because as long as the Carpathians are advancing, this will give us an improved die roll modifier the closer that they advance, because we are being able to fight them on both sides. So we want to try to keep that around as much as possible. Even if it is destroyed, we can use action points to rebuild it. And we can also use 2 action points to purchase resources here, which can be used as positive die roll modifications to use on our off-map theater battles. And then we can also use action points here to try to improve our national loyalty. In case some of these advance down, we can use an action to try to improve their loyalty. Now, a couple things on this map here, in particular with the Italians over here, that there are a couple of spots here where the terrain is really rough, and we've got some rivers here, and so it's going to cost you 2 action points to use an offensive to push them back, push the Italians back. So just be aware, there's a couple of them that are marked here with 2 markers, and so it's going to cause you 2 action points in order to do that. So now we still have our 2 action points, and I believe at this point what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend both of those actions to purchase these resources here, which I'm going to use to improve our naval theater battles, because those tend to be the most difficult. Now we will again adjust any kind of national will here, or the fortress. Right now it's not occupied, so we're okay there. National will phase, since this was a stalemate, will stay here at 0. So that's okay. Our next turn here, we will flip over this card here, and this is card number 7. This is the Drina Campaign. It says conduct the Serbian Battle. This particular card, there was a typo here. If we pull out the Drina marker, it's a 3, so we're actually supposed to resolve this 3 here, not the 4. So let's resolve that first here, and we roll a 3. Again, we're having a stalemate, so our armies are not really being successful. Here we look at what advances. We have the Italians and we have the Polish advancing. Since the Italians are not in the war, they will not advance, so we will advance the Polish here. And we have a trigger here for the Czechs. Let's see what's going to happen with them. Now we will roll here, and we roll a 4. And so fortunately they will not move closer towards revolt. And we have 2 actions on this particular turn. And I think at this point what I need to do is I need to use an action to try to push the Polish back. So I'll launch an offensive. I need to roll a 3, or I need to roll higher than a 3, which I do. Here's a 4. I will push them back, and I will attempt to push them back one more time here, which I met it, and so they will not move. Okay, I've spent my 2 actions, and this card has been resolved here. We will look to see if there's anywhere we have to affect any kind of national will, which we don't. We had another stalemate. Let's go ahead and flip another card here. This is going to tell us to conduct the Serbian Battle at Belgrade. So we have Belgrade right here. Let's roll this off and see what happens. We were victorious there, so this will move into the victory thing here. We now have the Italians, Carpathians, and Balkans advancing. So right here, they will move on to Przemysl. We will trigger a Croatian check here. Let's roll this. We roll a 6. They do not revolt. And now we have 2 actions to use on our turn. What we need to do is we need to try to push the Carpathians back, because if they maintain control of this at the end of the turn, that will count as 2 victories, because we have 2 flags here, so this is a significant area here. So we'll launch one offensive here. We have 5. We push them back, and I will try to launch another offensive against the Polish, and I was successful there. We've pushed them back. We cannot push them off the map here, so I've used my 2 actions. This has been resolved. Now if we look at the national will here, we are moving towards the positive direction, so we have a positive direction for the national will. Now this is going to continue to move along over the course of the game, adding in the various fronts and factions to the game. And again, we have to play trying to resolve all of these cards here, unless we have the national will move through all the way down to defeat. And that is how we play Hapsburg Eclipse. Okay, let's talk about Hapsburg Eclipse here, and this is the first time that I get a chance to talk about a war game on this show, so I'm excited to do so. Now this is a game that is in their States of Siege series, and typically in the States of Siege series you have a central location, which is what you're going to be playing, and defending against various different fronts or factions that are going to be coming from all different sides, and so you are working to attempt to be successful in that. So that's what this particular series is. Now let me talk about the components in this game. You have a beautiful map that is very well laid out, that explains things to you as you're going along, so it's very, very clear what is going on in the game. You have all of the various notes if something goes into revolt. You have the other notes that happen, certain things that will happen if, like the Italians, to cross this one river, they have to roll a die value in order to pass it. And so it's very, very clear and very, very well laid out. And it just looks really, really good on the table. Now the cool thing with the map is that it comes with two of them if you get the boxed set. So you have the basically the mounted map, which I have, which looked like a jigsaw puzzle. You put together, it's 5 pieces, or you have the traditional paper map that comes with it too. Now you have the various markers that come with the game, and they are adequate, and they do a great job of keeping track of everything that's going on in the game. Now, one thing about Victory Point games, in their manufacturing process for their markers, they use a laser to cut all of their pieces out. So one thing is that when you open up the box, you're going to have kind of like this burnt cardboard smell, and that is just from the manufacturing process. And they do give you a napkin to wipe away all the soot as you're separating all the pieces, which you should do. And if you look here, plenty of marks on here that I went ahead and cleaned off all of the pieces. So I did that. Your fingers are going to get dirty the first time you do it, but take the time to use the napkin so that everything else will stay nice and clean. Otherwise, if you don't, you're going to have soot kind of getting all over your fingers and on the board. But that is part of their manufacturing process. That's why they give you this. And the nice thing about it is that you know, taking the time to clean off the pieces, it gives you a sense of ownership for the game. So I like that aspect too. Now, looking at the gameplay for this, this game, it is intense almost the whole way through, because you really feel the struggle that was going on during this time period. Here you have the Hapsburg Empire, and you have this is the World War I, and so you have all of these various fronts that are converging upon Vienna, and you just really, really feel the struggle throughout this game. This is a difficult game to be victorious at, which is fine. You know, it's not a game where you're going to be left feeling defeated, but it is very challenging because of just the way things happen, and if you are not very good at your die rolling, the war results are not going to be going in your favor. Now, the demo game that I showed you, I showed you the first couple of cards, the turns that I played, and I went ahead and I played that game out, and it didn't take very much longer, and I suffered a crushing defeat because what happened was the very next card, the war advanced, and I had the Italians come in, and I had to add in the midday deck, and so that kind of increased the difficulty. So now I have three armies converging upon Vienna, and the next card that I flipped over, we advanced the war even more now into total war, and we brought the Romanians in, and so it was, I had four units converging upon Vienna, and I kept trying to launch offensives against Italy, and I couldn't repel them, and so they advanced into Vienna, and the game was over. So it was over rather quickly, and I was kind of like, come on here. I thought I was gonna, be able to get in a nice game, but it was over rather quickly. But that's fine, So go ahead and I'll play it again. But again, the game is, you feel the tension and the struggle in there, and you've got a few different things going on. I mean, not only do you have the 5 fronts that are converging upon Vienna, but you also have some off-map theater battles that are taking effect on the game in the national will. You also have your national loyalties, so you have these different ethnic groups that you have, and if they all go into a revolt, the game will end that way, so you have to look at like ethnic decline. So you have a bunch of different factors that are contributing to this game that makes it challenging yet difficult to be successful at the first few times that you play. Now, obviously, you have a number of actions that you can take to try to either add resources or launch offensives. So you do have the ability to push them back and be successful, and then hopefully you will have a card that comes through that will give you some aid, that will give you some positive effects. So there's some really cool things in there with you can intercept some radio messages, and you can stop some forces from advancing. You can get aid from the Germans, which will give you an increase of a +2 die roll modifier against one front for a whole turn. So if you want to use all of your actions to push one of the advancing fronts back, you can do that. You have the ability to roll 2 dice and choose the better of the 2. So you have some really, really cool things that will factor in that way. Now, there's some other things that you can also do during the game, which are really, really cool and helps with the just some historical aspect, and then also good strategic points. And that is you can use what's called the Great Retreat, and you can essentially get the Polish front off of the map, but it's going to cost you, and you have to have the resources to do it, because essentially what you need to do is you need to sacrifice some of your victories and move some of your stalemate battles into losses in order to perform that particular event. So it is going to draw out your, it's going to cost you on your national will in order to do that. The other thing is too that it has a factor of when the Americans come into the war, and that's with the Kaiserschlacht. And what you will do is once you encounter that, you will resolve all of the battles. There's like 6 of them, so you're going to roll dice for those, and you'll resolve those all at once, and then at the beginning, and that does not end unless you're able to get all of them in one particular box, either all stalemates, all actually no, either all victories or all losses, because at stalemates you keep refighting them. So you're going to keep refighting these particular battles on each subsequent turn. So you're going to, so it really compounds and just adds the tension that's going on during this game. And so I really, really enjoy it. Now, one of the really, really cool things here, and looking at this game from a family perspective, is that you have so much history that is brought about in this game just by looking at the text on the cards. So you're getting a World War I history lesson while you're playing this game. Now, yes, this game is a solitaire game, but that does not mean that as a family you can't sit around and discuss what the actions should be taken for each turn and looking to see how things resolve. So as a group, you could sit as a family and discuss things and then just make a general decision and look and see what's happening. Now, another cool aspect of this game is that one of the variants, you can play the game in terms of historical events. You can put the cards in numerical order and play them out and play the whole war all the way through. So you have the traditional way to play the game of shuffling up the cards in the 3 decks and playing them as they happen, or you can play it in sequential order. So that's a really, really cool thing too with this game. I really, really enjoyed this. I just kind of find that every time that I play it, I can sit down, I have even though it's a tense game, I kind of find myself unwinding as I'm playing it, because I can sit back and I look and I can take in all of these things, and it really, I can make some decisions, but to me it's not really a brain burner. I just look and it's just very easy for me to analyze things just because the way the board is laid out. And I just really find this to be an enjoyable game. And I would like to recommend this. I think that this is a really, really good game that if you've never experienced a war game, this is something that you could jump into. I just think that the historical aspect of this game is really, really good. With World War I, the events are really good. There's plenty of tension in the game, so it's going to, every time that you play it, you know, it's going to be an enjoyable experience, even if it ends in defeat, like which would happen to me. I still enjoy the game, and I can't wait to play it again. And then again, you know, that you have a couple variations to play it, as well as being able to be combined with the sister game, Ottoman Sunset. So lots of options with this game. This is a great one to jump in if you're new to war games, because it's not too complex. There's not too much to take in. So again, Hapsburg Eclipse from Victory Point Games. All right, so if you want to get yourself a copy of this, head on over to their website. I'll have the information in the video description below. All right, that's it for now, and join me again next time as we take a look at another game and we see how it makes it to the table.